Could AEW Collision be set to move from Saturday nights moving forward? Let you know all the details on a possible day change for AEW's secondary program. Speaking of changes, AEW's broadcast partner Warner Bros. Discovery is set to split into two publicly traded companies. We'll let you know all the details on the changes coming to AEW's broadcast partner. An injury update on Stephanie Vakur and El Hijo del Vikingo coming out of Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank this past weekend. WWE claims that WWE and AAA Worlds Collide set a company record for the largest live YouTube viewership. We'll let you know the details on that. Kyle Fletcher, we got details on how he felt about the botched apron powerbomb to Adam Cole. Bret Hart slams Vince McMahon over the misconduct allegations against the former WWE chairman. Brian Cage undergoes a knee replacement surgery. Triple H comments on John Cena's retirement tour and says he's earned the right to retire exactly how he wants. And Ace Austin says goodbye to TNA Wrestling after his contract expires. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we begin, you can see right there, we're currently at 22,314 subscribers. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join the ever-expanding WNU, that being the Wrestling News universe. In addition, you can become a member of the WN365 roster. Scan that QR code that you can see right there on the sidebar. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. Let's begin with a possible day change for AEW Collision on TNT. However, since AEW first announced the addition of Collision and that the show would be taking place on Saturdays, many in the industry have been doubtful about its long-term success. Not only was Collision the promotion's third weekly running show at the time, but also there had historically not been any successful wrestling shows that have aired on Saturdays and survived the weekend sports juggernauts like the NBA and the NFL. According to Dave Meltzer in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, the upcoming 11th of June Collision will be the second part of a 4-hour show and be called Summer Blockbuster that it'll share with Dynamite that week. But while Monday Night Raw and SmackDown are able to pull off 3-hour shows for WWE, the data shows it owes damage to the audience in the long run and that 4 hours is even worse. Quote, that said, WBD is looking for what time slot is best for Collision permanently. With WWE and other sports so prevalent, Saturday night isn't it, Meltzer writes. I think Thursday night at 8 to 10 p.m. is better than Wednesday night from 10 to midnight, even though Wednesday has the perfect lead-in of TV main event, end quote. Meltzer also added that taping shows in front of a tired audience will never do the show justice, and it always ends up dragging the night out despite being a cost-saving effort on AEW's end. In the past, AEW already made major decisions around their programming in the past, like cancelling Rampage in 2024, so moving Collision to a weekday wouldn't be too big of a deal, and hopefully for the promotion, another live event show is also not to stretch out their audience all in one night. So what are your thoughts on possibly moving Collision to a different night? What night do you think it should air on? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Now, speaking of AEW's broadcast partner, Warner Bros. Discovery, a major change to the company moving forward. Now, Warner Bros. Discovery has announced plans to separate into two publicly traded companies. Plans are there to be a, quote, streaming and studios company, which will consist of WBD's various film and TV streaming and studio avenues, including HBO Max. The other company will be, quote, Global Networks, end quote, which will feature the company's sports and premier entertainment properties, including TNT Sports. Warner Bros. Discovery shared the following statement, quote, enhanced strategic focus and flexibility will better position storied brands across entertainment, sports and news to drive shareholder value. This is what the statement said. Quote, today, WBD announced plans to separate the company in a tax-free transaction into two publicly traded companies, enabling each to maximize its potential. The streaming and studios company will consist of Warner Bros. Television, Warner Bros. Motion Picture Group, DC Studios, HBO, and HBO Max, as well as their legendary film and television libraries. Global Networks will include premier entertainment, sports, and news television brands around the world, including CNN, TNT Sports in the US, and Discovery, top free-to-air channels across Europe, and digital products such as the profitable Discovery Plus streaming service and Bleacher Report. David Zaslav, President and CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, will serve as President and CEO of Streaming and Studios. Gunnar Weidenfeld, CFO of Warner Bros. Discovery, will serve as President and CEO of Global Networks. Both will continue in their present roles at WBD until the separation. Quote, "The cultural significance of this great company and the impactful stories it has brought to life for more than a century have touched countless people all over the world. It's a treasured legacy we will proudly continue in this next chapter of our celebrated history," said Zaslav. By operating as two distinct and optimized companies in the future, we are empowering these iconic brands with the sharper focus and strategic flexibility they need to compete most effectively in today's evolving media landscape. This separation will invigorate each company by enabling them to leverage their strengths and specific financial profiles. This will also allow each company to pursue important investment opportunities and drive shareholder value, said Weidenfels. At Global Networks, we will focus on further identifying innovative ways to work with distribution partners to create value for both linear and streaming viewers globally while maximizing our network assets and driving free cash flow. We committed to shareholders to identify the best strategy to realize the full value of our exciting portfolio of assets, and the board believes this transaction is a great outcome for WBD shareholders, added Samuel A. Di Piazza Jr., that being the chair of Warner Bros. Discovery Board of Directors. This announcement reflects the board's ongoing efforts to evaluate and pursue opportunities that enhance shareholder value. Building on the achievements realized over the past 3 years, the planned separation will unlock value for the shareholders as well as create opportunities for both new businesses to thrive by equipping each to be faster and more aggressive in pursuing opportunities that strengthen their competitive positions, forming world-class management team focused on creating greater strategic flexibility and focus so that each business can invest in and pursue its operational and financial goals, enabling each company to be more agile and attract a shareholder base aligned with its growth prospects and financial profiles. The statement continues on, but when it pertains to AEW, of course, AEW announced a multi-platform deal with Warner Bros. Discovery in October of last year. Per the deal, Dynamite and Collision will air on TBS and TNT respectively, with AEW programming streaming live on HBO Max simultaneously for US subscribers. Let's go over to Worlds Collide this past weekend, as well as Money in the Bank, taking place, of course, on the same day. Now, let's begin with Stephanie Vakur. Former NXT Women's Champion Stephanie Vakur has shared an update after wrestling at back-to-back WWE events. The new Raw superstar certainly hit the ground running following her official main roster debut, winning a Money in the Bank ladder match qualifying match on the June 2nd Raw episode. This led to Vakur having a busy weekend wrestling on that Friday SmackDown, as well as Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank, both which took place on Saturday. Vakur has now taken to X to reflect on the weekend, noting that while her body is definitely still feeling the effects of the ladder match, she will be at Monday Night Raw. She said, quote, "SmackDown, Worlds Collide, Money in the Bank, incredible victories and unforgettable experiences. 3 matches in 24 hours and I'm still bursting with energy, although my body is definitely still feeling those ladders. The love and support you give me is truly priceless. I love spending time with all of you today. See you tomorrow on Raw." Now, SmackDown saw Vakur team with Alexa Bliss and Rhea Ripley to defeat Julia, Naomi, and Roxanne Perez in a match featuring all women's Money in the Bank ladder match competitors. Vakur and NXT's Lola Vice defeated AAA stars Cheek, Tormenta, and Dallas at Worlds Collide, with Vakur scoring the pull for the win. Later that day, Vakur competed in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which was ultimately won by Naomi. Now, speaking of injury updates, we've got one on El Hijo del Vikingo. Now, Vikingo headlined this past Saturday's WWE and AAA Worlds Collide show, successfully defending the AAA Mega Championship against Chad Gable. Towards the end of the match, however, it seemed as though Vikingo was favoring his knee, sparking speculation that he had sustained an injury. According to PW Insider, no injuries were reported coming out of the show. If Vikingo was injured, it was evidently not a serious one. The 28-year-old was present at Money in the Bank later on in the evening. PW Insider had further notes on Worlds Collide, including that WWE Hall of Famer The Undertaker was backstage at the show. WWE, as we spoke about in the video earlier today, was said to be high on the performance of Corey Graves, who announced the show alongside Conan. Among the t-shirts on sale were those for Rey Mysterio, the LWO, Psycho Clown, Stephanie Vakur, and El Grande Americano, as well as individual matches including Vikingo versus Gable. Speaking of merchandise, there is apparently already talk within WWE about how to merchandise Mr. Iguana. The AAA talent was booked to appear in the crowd at Money in the Bank after the positive reaction to his performance at Worlds Collide. Now, seemingly, Worlds Collide was a big success for WWE and AAA. According to a press release from both companies, WWE has touted the viewership numbers for WWE AAA Worlds Collide. WWE and AAA came together on June 7th for Worlds Collide, putting the event free on YouTube. WWE announced that the event set a record for the largest live audience in company history for a YouTube broadcast. The event peaked at 764,389 live concurrent viewers across the WWE and WWE Espanol YouTube channels during the main event between AAA Mega Champion El Hijo del Vikingo and Chad Gable. According to the company, Worlds Collide has been watched by more than 4.1 million viewers on YouTube in the first 24 hours. On X, the hashtag Worlds Collide was the #1 trending topic globally on Saturday, and WWE generated more than 32 million social views across all platforms in the first 24 hours. The show is still available to watch on YouTube. Now let's switch over to AEW and let's talk about that scary botch a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite. There was that scary moment that took place as Kyle Fletcher botched an apron powerbomb on Adam Cole during their match, causing the TNT champion to land scarily, just missing his head and neck on the apron and crashing down to the floor. This prompted some reported heat backstage in AEW towards Fletcher, with many unhappy and furious at the carelessness of the move due to Adam Cole's history of head injuries, with it being noted that there have been even more head injuries than have been made public, which have kept him off screen. On Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp was asked about the apparent heat on Fletcher. He confirmed that there was some heat, but it wasn't anything extreme and that there was no risk to his job or spot in AEW. Additionally, Fletcher's reaction to the botch was also revealed, with it being noted that he felt very bad about the situation. It was also noted that Fletcher is well liked in AEW, meaning that the heat will likely not affect him moving forward. Now, Bret Hart, not one to mix his words, is he? And he certainly hasn't held back when it comes to Vince McMahon. Bret Hart has commented on the allegations of sexual misconduct that would ultimately see Vince McMahon removed from WWE. Of course, Hart and McMahon had a rollercoaster relationship during the former's time as an active WWE wrestler. Most famously, Hart stayed away from WWE for over a decade after Vince McMahon double-crossed him at the 1997 WWE Survivor Series in an incident that would go on to be known as the Montreal Screwjob. Bret Hart eventually returned to WWE in 2010 and worked directly with McMahon on television. These days, McMahon is no longer with WWE following sexual assault allegations from a former employee. Hart commented on the allegations during a recent appearance on the Rise Guys podcast. He would say that he believes McMahon became a predator over time and began to use wrestling as a backdrop for his alleged abhorrent behavior. He said, quote, "Everything that happened with John Laurinaitis and the things they were doing with that poor girl, shame on all of them. That's just terrible. I've had all my ups and downs with Vince McMahon, and in a lot of ways, I have a lot of respect for him, but at the same time, I find what happened there inexcusable, and there's no place for that," he said. I think Vince McMahon became a predator and he used wrestling as his backdrop for all of his evil. This tells me that too much money can turn you into a bad person, end quote. Now, in the past, Hart called the punch he delivered to McMahon after the 1997 Survivor Series a perfect shot. In January, of course, of 2024, former WWE employee Janelle Grant filed a lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE, accusing McMahon of sexual assault, emotional abuse, and sex trafficking. The lawsuit is still active. Going back over to AEW and Brian Cage, we have an injury update on him. Brian Cage has undergone yet another surgery. In April of this year, Brian Cage underwent leg surgery, returning to the gym just days later. At the time, Cage did not share details of the procedure he underwent, but has now noted he underwent a quad tendon repair procedure. In a new social media post, Cage noted that he had once again gone under the knife for a knee replacement last week, also revealing the quad tendon repair procedure. Cage also shared that he was once again back in the gym just days removed from the surgery. In a recent interview, Cage noted that he wished he got to face a prominent AEW tag team alongside Lance Archer prior to his injury, that being the Hurt Syndicate. Let's talk about John Cena, the undisputed WWE champion. Our undisputed WWE champion John Cena is nearly halfway through his retirement tour and will be continuing his feud with R-Truth following this past Saturday's Money in the Bank PLE. There are mixed feelings from fans of how Cena is finishing his career, but it is receiving reactions and selling merchandise, which are two key factors in success of a WWE superstar. At the Money in the Bank post-show, WWE CCO Paul Triple H Levesque commented on Cena's retirement tour and impending farewell. Quote, "John is continuing on his farewell tour, and it's funny. I've known John for so long, watching him in this process right now, and just how much he's enjoying it, and how much fun he's having doing this, and I don't know, for me, it's about everybody's enjoyment, but it's about John's," Levesque would say. albeit receiving generational shock when the moment happened. Cena's heel turn at Elimination Chamber earlier this year with The Rock and Cody Rhodes is looked back on with some bitterness, as Rock, who assisted in Cena's turning, was not present at WrestleMania 41 for Cena's title match against Cody Rhodes. Travis Scott's interference at WrestleMania, along with the lukewarm reception for the match's quality, has soured Cena's retirement tour for some. Quote, "He has earned the right to do this exactly the way he wants to, and he's having the most fun I think I've ever seen him have, so I'm incredibly happy for him," Levesque proudly said of Cena. And finally, Ace Austin has said goodbye to TNA Wrestling. Ace Austin departed TNA at the expiration of his contract in May of 2025. He spent 6 years with the organization, making his debut in March 2018. He's held the TNA X Division Gold and the TNA Tag Team titles with Chris Bay. Now he's reflecting on his run. On X, Ace Austin thanked TNA and the individuals he shared the locker room with for their camaraderie and passion. He said, quote, "There's so much to be said about how phenomenal the last 6 years have been. It's impossible to caption how much this time has meant to me. I'm grateful for every moment, and I'm incredibly proud of the part I played. Representing the company across the world was an honor. This will always be my first home. Thank you, TNA, and thank you especially to the one-of-a-kind locker room full of amazing, caring, hard-working people who helped shape me into the performer and the man I am today. I grew up with you, and I will cherish that time forever. We've all worked so hard, and TNA is better than ever. They gave me an opportunity to shine, and I gave them some of the best years of my life. Together we flourished. One of the best things about TNA is the door always swings both ways." Now, Austin is being advertised for Scott D'Amore's Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling event on July 5th. But there you go, guys. That's the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As you can see right there, we're at 22,314 subscribers. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join the ever-expanding WNU, that being the Wrestling News Universe. In addition, you can become a member of the WN365 roster. Links in the video description below. You can also scan the QR code on the sidebar. When it appears, you get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.